Well, hello, folks. This is Jeffrey Daugherty. I'm your Christian whistleblower here for another Christian whistleblower update. It's Monday, the 18th of July. It's my pleasure to be coming to you from Orlando, Florida. And I want to talk to you today about one of the seminal, one of the most basic occasions within the formation of Pauline Christianity, and that is the actual conversion of the man named Saul of Tarsus, who was later to become known as the Apostle Paul, even though, and here's a fact I'll throw out to you for free, Paul, I think it's 172 times in the New Testament, is referred to, and never is he referred to as an apostle by anyone other than himself. Think about that for a minute, if you will. And I want to look at the seminal statements and the seminal occasion of Paul's conversion. And that comes in Acts chapter 9. And I want to focus on one particular aspect of it. So that's all I'm going to really talk about. But Paul's on his way from Damascus to Antioch, where he's going to do some speaking. And on the way there, something happens to Paul. You've heard the story. He gets knocked from his beast, which I've determined that it was a donkey, not a camel. Don't know why I wonder about those things, but through research, I found out it was a donkey, not a camel. And there's something that happens there, and there's something that a conversation that takes place, and it is central to the actual formation of Christianity. And I wanted you to take a look at it with me, because this is Paul, the Apostle Paul, and we're in Acts chapter 9, as you can see. Not trying to pull any wool over your eyes. We're in Acts chapter 9. And what I want to look at is chapter 3 here. And it says, as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And what we really want to concentrate on, as my voice cracks there for some reason, a light shined round about him from heaven. Why is that so important? Well, it's important because I'm looking at that actual wording there, and those actual words, that actual text, because it was written by Luke. And Luke was the scribe for the Apostle Paul, the so-called Apostle Paul, the self-appointed Apostle Paul, because Paul was unable to write for himself due to extreme visual difficulties. And Luke wrote here, no doubt at Paul's behest, that suddenly there shined right round about him a light from heaven, shined round about him a light from heaven. Keep that in mind, because when that light shined about him from heaven, then he fell to the earth. A voice was saying unto him, why persecutest me? And then Saul says, hey, who are you? And this person that appeared in the light says to Paul, according to Paul's account here, written by Luke, that I'm Jesus, who you're persecuting. So you've got Paul seeing a bright light, and in his vernacular, in his telling of it, it's Jesus who shined the bright light. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's the thing that we have to keep in mind, and we have to keep this straight, because we know that Paul is claiming that he saw this bright light shined about him, and he's claiming that it was, in his words, Jesus, the man that we would call Yeshua, the one that had the original Yeshua message. And Paul is claiming that this man, Yeshua, gave him the message. So what if the man Yeshua had something to say about that very event? And what if it was written by the same guy that wrote Acts? How about that? Well, let's look at the book of Luke. And we're going to look at the 10th chapter of the book of Luke. And Yeshua is talking to a bunch of evangelists that he sent out, actually 72 evangelists that he sent out. And they came back. They were very excited because they had a very successful campaign. And then Yeshua said something that most of us miss because we don't realize the import of it. But keep in mind that the book of Luke, of course, was written by Luke. And Luke, in fact, was one of these 72 evangelists. And Yeshua says this. He said unto them, behold, I saw Satan fall as lightning from heaven. Satan fall as lightning from heaven is the exact same text, the exact same language as the bright light shining from heaven that Paul claimed to have seen. Yeshua here, as recorded by Luke, Luke is using the same exact wording that he used in Acts chapter 9 to describe Paul's seeing, quote unquote, Jesus, as Luke is recording the words of Yeshua saying, I saw Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Now, do you get that, folks? The very same language that Yeshua used to describe what he called an appearance of Satan is the very same language that Paul used to describe what he called an appearance of Jesus. So if we are to be honest, and if we are to be good scholars, and if we are to rightly divide the word of truth, to use a Pauline statement in vain, then we have to realize that Luke, the same writer, wrote the same thing about two identical instances as far as appearances of supernatural beings. Yeshua said it was Satan. Now, I know that we've got this mindset of Satan, pitchfork, horns, red suit, or just an evil being. But the actual word in the Greek is Satan. It's adversary. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. And we're going to show you just a little bit again. And I know I do this, and some of you probably get upset at me for doing it. Oh, why do you got to do this? But I think it helps you because I want you at the end of the day to be able to study for yourself. So here we are. We're in Acts chapter 10, and we see, I beheld Satan, Yeshua said. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, and I'm at BibleHub.com. They don't pay me. I just find it to be the easiest one. So you can put in BibleHub.com. And right now we're just in Luke chapter 10 in the King James Version. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click interlinear. And I'm going to remember that I want to go to Luke chapter 10. And I want to go to verse 18. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click interlinear. That's going to drop me into the Greek and English interlinear. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to put, I want Luke 10:18. So when I hit 10:18, now I have 10:18 and I have Satan here. And if I go up and hit this number, that's the Strong's Concordance number. And if I hit Satan, we look at, and again, this is written by men. So the very Satanist, the word means an adversary. Now they extrapolate, and say Satan, but the word itself means adversary. And then if you see right here, it's of Hebrew origin, Satan. So let's click on that. What is the Satan in Hebrew origin? The Satan in Hebrew origin is adversary. So what Yeshua was saying is, I saw the adversary. And if you look back here, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but if you look back here, when we're looking at Luke chapter 10, verse 18, it is Satan. So we know it is Satan. And Yeshua is saying this is not Satan as we know Satan, but this is my adversary. So Yeshua is saying, I saw my adversary appear in what he calls like lightning or like a bright light. Paul saw the exact same thing happen the exact same way as written and recorded by the exact same writer, only he says it was Jesus. So what is the obvious conclusion for honest, objective, and sincere scholars? The being that Paul saw and identified as Jesus was in fact the very same entity that Yeshua saw, making the exact same appearance, and Yeshua identified him as the Satan, or as his adversary. So speaking strictly from the textual reality and the inescapable, unavoidable, objective rendering of the passage, the person that Paul, the entity that Paul based all of his doctrine upon, was an entity that Yeshua called his adversary. And how interesting it is that the gospel of Paul is adversarial to the gospel of Yeshua, because Yeshua identified the reason. Well, it's because his very own adversary, Yeshua's own adversary, is the one that called, commissioned, empowered, and instructed the so-called Apostle Paul. What you going to do now that the truth of the objective, empirical scriptures are breaking out all over you? I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your Christian whistleblower. I bring you the message. I bring you the water, but I can't make you drink. I bring you the objective information, but it's up to you to think. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your Christian whistleblower. I'm wishing you peace and light, and above all else, I'm asking you, hoping, praying that you unindoctrinate yourself.